Hello, how are you doing today? In this video, I will explain to you the concept of threshold frequency under the photoelectric effect. The very name threshold means some kind of a minimum. So if the frequency is below the minimum, nothing will happen. If the frequency is equal to threshold or above it, something will happen. So the photoelectric effect was discovered by Einstein, and he said that if you throw a beam of light of a particular frequency on a metal surface, electrons will get ejected from the metal surface. Different metals will need different energy levels to dislodge the electrons from their atoms. So here is a table starting from cesium and going up to platinum, and we can see that platinum needs maximum energy to dislodge one electron from it. The energy of the incoming light beam is given by E is equal to h into f, where h is Planck's constant and f is the frequency of light of a single wavelength, so we call it monochromatic. That means the energy of the incoming light beam is purely a function of frequency and nothing else. Hence the topic of threshold frequency, and we will look at that in the next slide. We now take one of those metals and we put in a beam from a gun, as we can see in this sketch. The light is pink in color. It must have a fixed frequency, but it's not high enough. So we are right now below the threshold frequency in this particular case. No electron is being released from the metal atoms. There is no photoelectric effect. Then we increase the frequency of the incoming light beam. It's now kind of greenish in color. The green light has a higher frequency than the pink color of light, and we see that there is some photoelectric effect. Some electrons have got ejected from the metal. The kinetic energy of those electrons may be zero, but the electrons are hanging around, they're not moving around, but they have come out of the metal. This is the threshold frequency. Now let's increase the frequency even higher to, let's say, violet, which is at the highest end of the Vibgyor spectrum. If we do that, the electrons are streaming out of the metal. You can see those white lines, and the energy that we have given, E is equal to hv, to the metal is higher than its work function, so lots of electrons have got ejected. We are now at a higher than threshold frequency. Therefore, let's come back to the slide of green color where we put in a beam of that particular color, and we find that the work function energy is met by a particular frequency that's called the threshold frequency. As we know, the work function is the energy required of a light beam, which can just about remove some electrons from that metal surface, and those electrons can be hanging around and their kinetic energy would be zero. So phi is equal to h into f threshold. Now the kinetic energy of those electrons is given by Einstein's equation, so kinetic energy should be zero, which meets here because h into f threshold minus phi will be equal to zero. Now in the extreme case where we put in a violet beam of color and all those electrons are streaming out with higher kinetic energy, that means the electrons have a positive velocity, the Ke max would be given by h into frequency, hf. Here f would be the frequency for the violet beam of color, minus phi, which is the work function. The phi would be given by h into f threshold for that material. So hf minus h into f threshold would be h into f minus f threshold. That's all there is to it. And to get the threshold wavelength, just convert frequency into wavelength. Thanks for your time in going through this video. Please do log in into my website www.physicsmodels.in. Have a great day.